The ship graveyard stretched across 3 billion kilometers of dead space. Thousands of vessels floated in the darkness, their hulls torn open and their lights forever dark. Some were small fighters no bigger than houses. Others were massive carriers that could hold entire cities inside their broken bellies. All of them had been abandoned. All of them had been forgotten. The Galactic Assembly called this place the Drift, and they had marked it as forbidden territory for over 800 years. Captain Jin stood at the viewing window of her small salvage ship and looked at the graveyard with hungry eyes. She was a woman of 32 years with short black hair and a scar that ran from her left ear to her chin. She had earned that scar fighting pirates near the outer colonies. She had earned her reputation by never giving up, no matter how bad things looked. "Assembly patrol passed through 6 hours ago," said her navigator, a young man named Sung. He was barely 25, thin as a wire, but his fingers moved across the navigation console faster than anyone Jin had ever seen. "They won't be back for another 12 hours, maybe longer." "That gives us time," Jin said. She turned to face her crew. There were only 6 of them in total. 6 humans on a tiny salvage ship, about to break one of the oldest laws in galactic space. Everyone knows the risks. The Assembly doesn't want anyone touching these wrecks. They say the ships are cursed. They say bad things happen to those who disturb the dead. "Aliens always say things are cursed when they don't understand them," said Ho from the engineering station. He was the oldest member of the crew at 41, with gray streaks in his hair and oil stains on his hands that never seemed to wash off completely. He had been building and fixing things since before Jin was born. "I've heard that story 100 times. Cursed planet, cursed station, cursed ship. Every time, it just means they gave up on something they couldn't figure out." Bai laughed from her seat near the weapons console. She was 28, with a round face and bright eyes that seemed to find humor in everything. She was the best mechanic Jin had ever worked with, and she could fix anything with enough time and enough spare parts. "Remember that cursed mining station near Prime, the one they abandoned because ghosts lived in the walls?" "Bad wiring," Ho said with a grunt. "Electrical surges were making the lights flicker and the doors open by themselves. We fixed it in 3 days and sold it for enough credits to buy this ship." Jin smiled. This was why she loved her crew. Where aliens saw mysteries and curses, humans saw problems that needed solving. It was a simple difference in thinking, but it had made humans very good at surviving in a galaxy that had never wanted them. "Take us in," she ordered. "Slow and quiet. No active scanning until we're deep inside the graveyard. I don't want anyone knowing we're here." Sung guided the ship forward with careful hands. They passed the first wrecks within minutes. A destroyer with its entire front section missing. A transport with holes punched through its cargo bays. A ship of unknown design that looked like it had been melted from the inside out. Each wreck told a story of some ancient battle or catastrophic failure. Each one held secrets that the galaxy had chosen to forget. "Scanning now," said one from the sensor station. She was the quietest member of the crew, a woman of 30 who rarely spoke more than necessary, but when she did speak, everyone listened. "Most of these wrecks are completely dead. No power signatures, no salvageable systems, but there's something deeper in the graveyard, something big." "How big?" Jin asked. One's eyes widened slightly. "Very big, maybe 2 kilometers long. And Captain, I'm detecting a faint power reading from inside it." The crew exchanged looks. A ship that size with any power remaining was worth more than their entire operation. It was worth more than most small colonies. Ships like that didn't just appear in graveyards unless something very strange had happened. "Show me," Jin said. They flew deeper into the graveyard for another hour. The wrecks grew thicker around them, some drifting so close that Sung had to weave between them like a dancer. Finally, they saw it. The ship sat half buried in a massive asteroid, as if some giant hand had pushed it into the rock and left it there to die. It was shaped like a curved blade, with smooth lines and a hull that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Even covered in dust and debris, even with sections of its outer armor torn away, the ship looked dangerous. It looked like something that had been built to kill. "What is that?" Bai whispered. "I don't know," one admitted. "The design doesn't match any species in my database. It's not. I've never seen anything like it." Ho leaned forward in his seat. "Look at those weapon ports. 40, no, 50 of them along the main hull, and those engine housings. Whatever this thing is, it was built for war." "The assembly marked it as," one said, reading the old survey records. "They tried to study it 800 years ago. Every team they sent inside either died or came back wrong. The official report says the ship's systems are incompatible with alien neural patterns. They couldn't control it, couldn't even understand it. So they left it here and declared this whole sector forbidden." "Incompatible with alien neural patterns," Jin repeated slowly. A strange thought was forming in her mind, a dangerous thought. "But humans aren't aliens. Not really. Our brains work differently than every other species in the galaxy. That's why we can't use their neural interfaces without heavy modification." The crew stared at her. "You want to go inside?" Ho said. It wasn't a question. "I want to understand," Jin replied. 800 years this ship has been sitting here. 800 years the assembly has been telling everyone to stay away. But they never tried sending humans inside. They never even thought to try. "Because humans weren't part of the galactic community back then," Sung pointed out. "We were still figuring out basic space travel." "Exactly." Jin turned back to the viewing window. The dark ship waited in silence, patient as death. "They gave up on this ship because they couldn't make it work, but humans don't give up. We adapt. We overcome. We take things that others throw away and we make them ours." She took a deep breath. "Suit up," she ordered. "We're going aboard." Bai was the first to stand. Then Ho. Then the others, one by one. They were scared. Jin could see it in their eyes, but they were also curious. They were also human, and humans had never been able to resist a mystery. 20 minutes later, they stood at the airlock, ready to cross over to the abandoned ship. The darkness waited for them on the other side. The galaxy had called this ship cursed. The galaxy had said it was impossible to control. Jin smiled as the airlock opened. She was about to prove the galaxy wrong. The inside of the ship was darker than anything Jin had ever experienced. Her helmet lights barely cut through the blackness, creating small circles of visibility in an ocean of shadow. The walls around her were smooth and cold, covered in patterns that might have been decoration or might have been writing. Dust floated in the air like gray snow, undisturbed for 8 centuries. "Atmosphere is stable," Ho reported through the communication link. His voice crackled slightly from interference. "Whoever built this ship designed it to maintain internal conditions even without power. That's impressive engineering." "Stay close," Jin ordered. "We move as a group. No one wanders off alone." They walked through corridors that curved and twisted in ways that seemed wrong to human eyes. The floors sloped at odd angles. The doorways were shaped for bodies that clearly weren't human. Some passages were so narrow that they had to squeeze through sideways. Others were wide enough to drive vehicles through. The whole ship felt like it had been designed by someone who thought in completely different ways than any species Jin had encountered. "Found something," Bai called out. She was kneeling beside a wall panel that hung partially open. Behind it, a tangle of wires and conduits glowed with a faint blue light. "Power lines. They're still carrying current. Weak, but it's there." "Follow them," Jin said. "They'll lead us to the core." The power lines ran through the walls like veins through a body. Bai traced them with her scanner while the others followed behind. They passed through what might have been crew quarters. Empty beds lined the walls, each one too long and too narrow for any known species. They passed through what might have been a dining hall. The tables were made of black metal that seemed to drink in light. They passed through rooms they couldn't identify at all, filled with equipment that served purposes no one could guess. After 2 hours of walking, they found the engine room. It was massive. The ceiling rose so high that their lights couldn't reach it. The floor stretched out in all directions, covered with machinery that hummed with quiet power. In the center of everything sat a sphere of pure white light, floating 3 meters above a metal platform. It pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat. The core, Ho breathed. It's still running. After 800 years, it's still running. One approached the nearest console and brushed away the dust. Strange symbols covered its surface, arranged in patterns that made no logical sense. She touched one experimentally. Nothing happened. The assembly record said their teams tried everything, she said. They brought experts from 12 different species. None of them could activate a single system. The ship simply refused to respond. "Let me try," said Sung. He stepped forward and placed both hands flat on the console's surface. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the symbols began to glow. Light spread across the console like water across a floor. A sound filled the room, deep and resonant, like a giant machine waking from a long sleep. The sphere in the center pulsed faster. Sung yanked his hands back with a gasp. It talked to me, not with words but with feelings. It asked what I wanted. "What did you tell it?" Jin asked. "I told it I wanted to help. I told it we came to fix it, not to hurt it." The lights in the room flickered on. Not all of them, just a few scattered panels along the walls. But it was enough. After 800 years of darkness, the ship was responding. Jin made a decision that would change human history. "We're not just salvaging this ship," she told her crew. "We're bringing it back to life." The work took 4 months. They couldn't do it alone. Jin called in favors from every human contact she had. Engineers came from the colony on station. Mechanics came from the mining outposts in the belt. Programmers came from Earth itself, risking their careers and their freedom to work on a forbidden project in forbidden space. At first, progress was slow. The ship systems were unlike anything humans had built. The power distribution worked on principles that seemed to violate basic physics. The computer architecture used concepts that human programmers had never imagined. Even simple things like opening doors required learning entirely new approaches. But humans were persistent. Ho spent 3 weeks just understanding how the engine worked. He took it apart piece by piece, studying each component until he understood its function. When he finally figured it out, he laughed so hard that tears ran down his face. "It's not broken," he told Jin. "It was never broken. The engine is designed to bond with its operators. It needs to feel their intentions, their emotions. Alien minds were too different. The ship couldn't understand what they wanted, so it refused to cooperate. But human emotions are simpler, more direct, more honest. The ship can read us perfectly." Bai rebuilt the power grid using a combination of alien technology and human engineering. She welded Earth-made conduits to 800-year-old systems. She rewired circuits using techniques she invented on the spot. The ship accepted every modification. More than that, it seemed to appreciate them. Each time she finished a repair, the lights in that section grew a little brighter. Each time she solved a problem, the ship hummed a little louder. "It's learning from us," Bai realized one night. "Every change we make, it studies and remembers. It's adapting to us just like we're adapting to it." The weapon systems were the last thing they tackled. 50 gun ports lined the main hull, each one capable of firing energy beams that could cut through battleship armor. But the targeting systems were completely dead. No matter what they tried, the weapons refused to activate. One finally solved the puzzle. "The weapons are linked to the captain's neural interface," she explained. "The ship won't fire unless it trusts the person giving orders, and it won't trust anyone until they prove themselves." "How do I prove myself?" Jin asked. "You have to let the ship inside your mind, completely. No barriers, no secrets. It needs to see who you really are." Jin sat in the captain's chair. It had taken weeks to modify it for a human body, but now it fit her perfectly. She closed her eyes and felt the ship's presence pressing against her consciousness. It was vast and old and strange. It had memories of battles fought in star systems that no longer existed. It had grief for a crew that had died so long ago that their species had been forgotten. It had loneliness that had lasted for 800 years. She opened her mind and let the ship see everything. Her childhood on Earth, her years in the Space Academy, her first command, her failures and her victories, her fears and her hopes, her love for her crew and her determination to protect them. The ship studied her for what felt like hours. Then, slowly, she felt something that might have been approval. The weapon systems came online. All 50 guns powered up simultaneously, their targeting systems locking onto empty space. The ship was armed. The ship was ready. "It accepts you," one said quietly. "You're its captain now, its true captain." Jin opened her eyes. Through the ship's sensors, she could see the entire graveyard spread out around them. She could feel the engines waiting to fire. She could sense the weapons eager to prove themselves. The ship that the galaxy had called cursed was now hers. "We need a name," she said. "What do you want to call it?" Ho asked. Jin thought about the ship's long wait in the darkness. She thought about its abandonment and its patience, and its hope that someone would finally understand it. "The Iron Phoenix," she said. "It died here, now it rises again." The ship hummed in agreement. Light spread across its hull, visible even from outside. After 800 years, the Iron Phoenix was reborn. And the galaxy had no idea what was coming. The first time Jin flew the Iron Phoenix, she wept. It was not sadness. It was the overwhelming feeling of connection, of becoming something larger than herself. The ship wrapped around her consciousness like a warm blanket. Its engines became her heartbeat. Its sensors became her eyes. Its weapons became her hands. She was no longer just a woman sitting in a chair. She was a 2-kilometer warship, ancient and powerful and terribly, beautifully alive. "Captain," Ho's voice came from somewhere far away. "Captain, are you all right?" Jin blinked and found herself back in her own body. The connection remained, but it was softer now, a background presence rather than an overwhelming flood. "I'm fine," she said, wiping her eyes. "Better than fine, I understand now." "Understand what?" "Why the aliens couldn't control this ship. It wasn't because their minds were incompatible, it was because they were afraid." She stood up from the captain's chair and looked around the bridge. Her crew watched her with worried expressions. "This ship doesn't want a master, it wants a partner, someone willing to share everything, to trust completely." The aliens who tried to claim it held back. They kept secrets. They tried to dominate rather than cooperate, so the ship rejected them. "And humans are different?" Bai asked. "We had to be." Jin walked to the main viewing window. Outside, the graveyard stretched in all directions, but she barely saw it. Her attention was focused inward on the ship's memories that now flickered at the edges of her own mind. "When humans first went to space, we had nothing. No allies, no advanced technology, no experience. We survived by trusting each other completely. We shared everything because we couldn't afford to hold anything back. That's the kind of bond this ship was looking for. That's why it chose us." Over the following weeks, they discovered just how powerful the Iron Phoenix truly was. The engines could push the ship to speeds that broke every known record. Some calculated that they could cross the entire galaxy in 3 months, a journey that would take normal ships several years. The armor was made from a material that seemed to repair itself when damaged. Bai shot it with a plasma torch and watched the hole close up within minutes. But it was the weapons that truly amazed them. "These aren't just energy cannons," one reported after days of analysis. "Each gun port contains a different type of weapon, kinetic accelerators, plasma lances, something that looks like it fires concentrated gravity, and these 6 ports along the spine, I think they're designed to crack planets." "Planet crackers," Ho repeated slowly. "Who built this ship? What were they fighting against that they needed weapons like that?" The ship's memories held answers, but they were fragmented and strange. Images of vast battles in empty space, enemies that moved like shadows and consumed everything they touched. A desperate last stand against something that couldn't be killed, only delayed. The builders of the Iron Phoenix had sacrificed everything to stop this enemy. They had succeeded, but at the cost of their entire civilization. The ship was all that remained of them. It was waiting, Jin said softly, not just for someone to fly it. It was waiting for the enemy to return. For 800 years, it kept itself alive just in case it was needed again. Is that enemy still out there? Sung asked nervously. Jin searched the ship's memories but found only uncertainty. The enemy had been pushed back beyond the edge of the galaxy. It might be dead. It might be sleeping. It might be preparing to return. The ship didn't know. It only knew that it had to be ready. Whether that enemy comes back or not, this ship changes everything, Jin decided. Humanity has been treated like children by the Galactic Assembly for 50 years. They give us the worst colonies. They restrict our technology. They laugh at us when we try to improve our situation. This ship gives us a chance to be taken seriously. Or a chance to start a war, Ho pointed out. Only if we're stupid about it. Jin turned to face her crew. They had grown from 6 people to almost 40 during the restoration. Engineers, mechanics, programmers, pilots, all of them human, all of them loyal. We don't use the Iron Phoenix to threaten anyone. We don't use it to conquer or steal. We use it to protect. Human colonies get raided by pirates every month. Human ships get attacked in neutral space. The assembly does nothing because we're not important enough. But now we have a way to defend ourselves. The first test came sooner than expected. A distress call reached them 3 days later. A human transport ship called the Harmony was under attack near the asteroid field. Pirates had surrounded it and were demanding its cargo. The assembly patrol ships were 6 hours away and showed no sign of hurrying. By the time they arrived, the Harmony and its 200 passengers would be dead. How fast can we get there? Jin asked. Sung checked his calculations. 20 minutes if we push the engines hard. Push them. The Iron Phoenix left the graveyard like a dark arrow. Space bent around it as the ancient engines fired at full power. Stars stretched into lines. Alarms screamed on every ship in 3 sectors as something impossibly fast tore through their sensor ranges. They arrived at the asteroid field in 18 minutes. The pirates had already boarded the Harmony. Their ships, 7 ugly vessels covered in stolen armor, floated around the transport like wolves around a wounded deer. They didn't notice the Iron Phoenix until it was already among them. Jin reached out with her mind and felt the ship's weapons respond. Targeting data flooded her vision. 7 ships, their weak points highlighted in red. The pirates were armed with plasma cannons and missile launchers. Against the Iron Phoenix, they might as well have been throwing rocks. "This is Captain Jin of the Iron Phoenix," she broadcast on all frequencies. "You have 60 seconds to release the Harmony and surrender. If you refuse, I will destroy you." Laughter came back over the communication channel. "Iron Phoenix? Never heard of it. Looks like a piece of junk to me. Boys, let's show this human what happens when she tries to play hero." The pirate ships opened fire. Plasma bolts and missiles streaked toward the Iron Phoenix. Jin didn't even try to dodge. She simply watched as the attack struck the ship's armor and vanished without leaving a mark. The self-repairing hull absorbed everything they threw at her. "Is that all?" she asked calmly. "My turn." She fired 3 shots. 3 kinetic rounds moving so fast they were invisible. 3 pirate ships exploded simultaneously, their armor crumpling like paper. Silence filled the communication channel. 50 seconds, Jin said. The remaining 4 ships tried to run. One made it halfway to the asteroid field before a plasma lance caught it and melted it into slag. The other 3 realized escape was impossible. They cut their engines and broadcast surrender signals. "The Harmony is free," Jin told the survivors. "I'm taking you into custody until the assembly arrives. If anyone else tries to run, I won't be as gentle." No one tried to run. When the assembly patrol ships finally arrived 6 hours later, they found the 4 pirate vessels drifting peacefully with their crews locked in their own cargo holds. The Harmony was already on its way to safety, its passengers singing songs of gratitude. And the Iron Phoenix was gone, vanished back into the darkness between stars. The patrol commander stared at his sensor logs in disbelief. A 2-kilometer warship, weapons that could destroy ships in single shots, speed that shouldn't be possible, and all of it controlled by humans. He sent his report to the Galactic Assembly with shaking hands. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity had found something in the graveyard. Something that was going to change everything. The news spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. Every news network carried the story. A human ship had appeared from nowhere and destroyed a pirate fleet in seconds. Not just any ship, but something ancient and terrible. Something that had been abandoned in the drift for 8 centuries. Something that the Galactic Assembly had declared too dangerous to touch. "They're calling it the Ghost Ship," Bai said, reading the reports on her tablet. "Some networks are saying it's proof that humans are dangerous and need to be controlled. Others are saying we're heroes. One commentator suggested that we should be killed before we cause more trouble." "What does the Assembly say officially?" Jin asked. "Nothing yet. They're too busy arguing among themselves to give a statement." The Iron Phoenix drifted in empty space far from any patrol routes. Jin had ordered a complete blackout on all signals. The galaxy knew they existed now, but no one knew where they were. She wanted to keep it that way until they figured out their next move. "We can't hide forever," Ho said. "Sooner or later someone will find us, and when they do, they'll either try to take the ship or try to destroy it." "Let them try," said a young pilot named. He had joined them during the restoration and had proven himself skilled with the ship's secondary systems. "We beat 7 ships without even trying. What can they possibly send against us?" "Everything," one answered quietly. "The Assembly has hundreds of warships, thousands if they call up the reserve fleets. We're powerful, but we're still just one ship with 40 crew members. They could bury us in numbers if they really wanted to." Before anyone could respond, an alarm cut through the bridge. Sung's hands flew across his console, pulling up data from the ship's long-range sensors. "Distress signal," he reported. "Human colony on 7, they're under attack." "Pirates again?" Jin asked. "No," Sung's face went pale. "It's the Federation. They're claiming the colony violated their territorial rights. They've sent a full battle fleet, 12 warships plus support vessels." They were one of the oldest members of the Galactic Assembly. They were large, aggressive, and had been pushing against human settlements for years. The Assembly always sided with them in disputes because human votes meant nothing compared to influence. 7 has 8,000 colonists, one said. Families, children. If they take the colony, everyone will be either killed or enslaved. Jin closed her eyes and felt the Iron Phoenix stir around her. The ship shared her anger. It shared her need to protect. For 800 years it had waited for this purpose. Not conquest, not glory, protection. "How fast can we reach them?" she asked. 2 hours at maximum speed, Sung replied. "Then we go at maximum speed." The Iron Phoenix screamed across space like a black comet. Jin pushed the engines harder than she ever had before. Warning lights flickered on consoles throughout the ship. The hull groaned with stress. None of it mattered. 8,000 humans were about to die, and she was the only one who could save them. They arrived at 7 to find chaos. The fleet had already engaged the colony's defenses. 2 small human patrol ships were trying to hold the line, but they were outmatched in every way. One of them was already burning, its hull torn open by plasma fire. The other was dodging desperately, buying time that was quickly running out. On the ground, the colony's shields were failing. Landing craft were descending through the atmosphere, carrying soldiers to claim what they said was rightfully theirs. In 1 hour, maybe less, the colony would fall. "All hands battle stations," Jin ordered. Her voice was calm, but inside she felt the ship's weapons singing for release. "Ho, give me everything the engines have left. Sung, plot me an attack vector right through the center of their formation. Bai, stand by to manage power distribution. We're about to make a lot of things explode." "Captain," one said carefully, "they have military-grade ships. This won't be like fighting pirates." "No, it'll be easier." The Iron Phoenix dropped into the battle like a hammer falling on glass. The commander barely had time to register the new contact before the first shots arrived. Two of his destroyers vanished in balls of fire as kinetic rounds punched through their shields like they weren't there. A third ship tried to turn and present its armored bow, but a plasma lance caught it amidships and cut it in half. "What is that thing?" the commander screamed over the communication channels. "All ships, focus fire on the unknown vessel. Destroy it." 9 remaining warships turned their weapons on the Iron Phoenix. Hundreds of plasma bolts and missiles streaked through space. The dark hull lit up with impacts, fire blooming across its surface. When the barrage ended, the Iron Phoenix was still there. Its armor was scratched. A few sensor arrays had been damaged, but the ship flew on, untouched and unstoppable. "Is that all?" Jin broadcast to the fleet. "I've seen asteroids hit harder than that." She fired again and again. Each shot found its target, each target died. The commander watched his fleet dissolve around him. Ships that had won dozens of battles against other species lasted only seconds against this monster. His flagship, a heavy cruiser that had been the pride of the Federation for 30 years, lost its engines to a single gravity pulse and began drifting helplessly. "This is impossible," he whispered. "That ship was dead. They said it was cursed. They said no one could ever control it." "You left it to rust." Jin's voice came through his speakers, cold and final. "We brought it back. That's the difference between us. You give up, we don't." The battle lasted 11 minutes. When it was over, 8 warships were wreckage floating in orbit around 7. The remaining 4, including the crippled flagship, had surrendered. The landing craft recalled their soldiers and retreated. The colony's shields flickered back to full power as the immediate threat vanished. Jin brought the Iron Phoenix down through the atmosphere and landed it in the central plaza of the colony's main city. It was a tight fit, but she wanted the colonists to see what had saved them. She wanted them to know that humanity finally had something to fight back with. Thousands of people gathered around the ship. They wept. They cheered. They reached out to touch the dark hull as if it were a holy object. Children sat on their parents' shoulders, staring at the massive vessel with wide eyes. Jin walked down the boarding ramp with her crew behind her. A woman rushed forward and grabbed her hands, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you," the woman sobbed. "Thank you, they were going to take everything. My children, my home, everything. And then you came." "We'll always come," Jin promised. "Wherever humans are in danger, wherever no one else will help, we'll be there. That's what the Iron Phoenix is for." Across the galaxy, the Galactic Assembly received reports of the battle. 12 warships defeated by a single vessel in 11 minutes. A human crew flying technology that had been declared impossible to use. A demonstration of power that changed every calculation about humanity's place in the galactic order. Emergency sessions were called. Arguments erupted in council chambers. Some demanded that humans be punished for their arrogance. Others suggested that perhaps humans had been underestimated for too long. But everyone agreed on one thing. The rules had changed, and humanity was no longer playing by them. The summons arrived 3 days after the battle at 7. Captain Jin was hereby commanded to appear before the Galactic Assembly's High Council. She was to bring the Iron Phoenix to the Assembly's capital world of Prime. She was to surrender herself and her crew for questioning. She was to submit the ship for inspection and potential seizure. Failure to comply would result in humanity being declared a threat to galactic peace, with all the consequences that status carried. Jin read the summons twice, then deleted it. "They're scared," she told her crew. "They've been in charge for so long that they forgot what it feels like to face something they can't control. Now they're trying to take back power the only way they know how, with threats and demands." "What do we do?" asked. "We go to Prime, but not as prisoners, as equals." The Iron Phoenix approached the assembly capital 3 days later. Traffic controllers screamed at them to halt. Patrol ships scrambled to intercept, but no one was willing to fire the first shot. The galaxy had seen what happened to those who attacked this ship. No one wanted to be next on the list. Jin parked the Iron Phoenix in orbit directly above the assembly hall. The ship's shadow fell across the great dome where the most powerful beings in the galaxy made their decisions. It was a message that everyone understood. We are here. We are not afraid, and we will not be pushed around. She took a shuttle down to the surface alone. Her crew wanted to come with her, but she refused. This was something she needed to do by herself. Besides, if anything went wrong, the Iron Phoenix would need its operators to carry out the next phase of the plan. The assembly hall was the largest structure Jin had ever seen. Its ceilings rose hundreds of meters above the floor. Its walls were covered with murals depicting the history of galactic civilization. Thousands of representatives from hundreds of species filled the viewing galleries, all of them staring at the single human woman who walked down the central aisle toward the High Council's platform. The High Council consisted of the 7 most powerful species in the galaxy. Their representatives sat on thrones of precious metals, looking down at Jin like judges preparing to deliver a death sentence. The representative glared at her with pure hatred. The representative studied her with cold curiosity. The others showed various shades of contempt, fear, and anger. "Captain Jin of the vessel called Iron Phoenix," the council speaker announced. His name was Ambassador, an ancient whose scales had turned silver with age. "You stand before this council accused of violating the drift prohibition, unlawful salvage of forbidden technology, and an unprovoked attack on Federation military forces. How do you answer these charges?" Jin stood straight and looked directly at the council. Her voice was calm but carried across the entire hall. "I answer that your charges are meaningless. The drift prohibition was created to hide your own failure. You couldn't control the ship, so you declared it cursed and forbade anyone from trying. That's not wisdom. That's cowardice." Murmurs rippled through the watching crowds. No one had ever spoken to the High Council like this. "As for the salvage charge," Jin continued, "you abandoned that ship 800 years ago. You declared it. Under galactic law, abandoned property can be claimed by anyone willing to put in the work to restore it. We put in the work. The Iron Phoenix is ours." "And the attack on the representative demanded. 12 of our finest warships destroyed, thousands of our soldiers dead. Do you deny committing these acts of war? Your soldiers were trying to enslave 8,000 humans. Your ships fired first. We defended ourselves and we defended our people. If that's an act of war, then you started it." Ambassador raised his hand for silence. "These are serious matters that require careful deliberation, but they are not the true reason we summoned you here. The Council wishes to discuss the future of the Iron Phoenix." "There's nothing to discuss. The ship is mine." "The ship is too powerful to remain in the hands of one species," said. "One small, young, reckless species that has repeatedly shown poor judgment and aggressive tendencies. The Council proposes that the Iron Phoenix be transferred to Assembly Control. It will be studied, maintained, and operated by a multi-species crew. In exchange, humanity will receive favorable trade terms and expanded colonial rights." Jin laughed. The sound echoed through the hall, surprising everyone. "You want to take our ship and give us table scraps in return? That's your offer?" She shook her head. "Let me make a counteroffer. The Iron Phoenix stays with humanity. We will use it to protect human colonies from attacks, raids, and conquest. We will not use it to threaten or intimidate other species unless they threaten us first. In exchange, the Assembly will treat humanity as an equal member of the galactic community. No more restricted technology. No more second-class colonies. No more looking the other way when other species abuse us. Unacceptable, the representative snarled. Humans cannot be trusted with such power. They are children pretending to be adults. Children? Jin's voice went cold. We took a ship that defeated your best engineers. We rebuilt it with our own hands. We learned to fly it, to fight with it, to make it ours. We're not children. We're survivors. And we're done being treated like we don't matter. Ambassador leaned forward. And if we refuse your terms, if we demand that you surrender the Iron Phoenix or face the consequences. Jin smiled. You mean the consequences of the entire Assembly fleet trying to take one ship? Go ahead, call your fleets. Bring everything you have. But understand this, we've already been to the drift. We've already mapped every ship in that graveyard. There are over 2,000 vessels there, abandoned and waiting. You couldn't make them work. You were too afraid to try, but we're not afraid. If you push us, we'll go back to that graveyard and we'll wake up every single ship we can find. The hall went silent. You're bluffing, the representative said, but his voice wavered. Am I? You threw away technology that you couldn't understand. You filled an entire sector with ships that were too advanced for you to use. All that power just sitting there rusting in the dark. Jin spread her arms wide. What you throw away, humanity will always pick up. What you abandon, we will always restore. What you fear, we will always embrace. That's who we are. That's why the Iron Phoenix chose us. And that's why you should think very carefully before making us your enemy. Ambassador stared at her for a long moment. Then he turned to consult with the other council members. Heated whispers flew back and forth. Arguments erupted and were quickly silenced. Finally, the old turned back to face Jin. The council will need time to discuss your proposal, he said carefully. You may return to your ship while we deliberate. Take all the time you need. Jin turned to leave, then paused. But while you're discussing, remember something. The Iron Phoenix was built to fight an enemy that almost destroyed its creators. That enemy might still be out there, beyond the edge of the galaxy. If it ever returns, you're going to want humanity on your side. You're going to need every ship we can pull out of that graveyard. Think about that while you're deciding whether to treat us as equals or enemies. She walked out of the assembly hall without looking back. The council deliberated for 6 days. During that time, human networks across the galaxy carried stories about the Iron Phoenix and its captain. Colonists who had been rescued shared their gratitude. Engineers who had worked on the restoration shared their pride. Even some alien commentators began suggesting that perhaps humans deserved more respect than they had been given. On the 7th day, the council announced its decision. Humanity would be granted full membership in the Galactic Assembly with all associated rights and privileges. The Iron Phoenix would remain under human control. In exchange, humanity agreed to contribute to galactic defense and to share any technology recovered from the drift with the Assembly's scientific community. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't everything Jin had wanted, but it was a beginning. She stood on the bridge of the Iron Phoenix as it left Prime behind. Her crew celebrated around her, laughing and cheering and hugging each other. They had done the impossible. They had changed the course of galactic history. Through the ship's sensors, Jin looked toward the distant darkness where the drift waited. Thousands of ships, thousands of opportunities. Everything the galaxy had thrown away, everything they had declared too broken or too dangerous, all of it waiting for human hands to bring it back to life. The galaxy had underestimated humanity for 50 years. They had treated humans like children, like accidents, like nuisances to be managed. But now they understood the truth. Humans didn't give up. Humans didn't throw things away. And when the galaxy finally faced its next great threat, it would be humans leading the charge, flying ships that everyone else had been too afraid to touch. The Iron Phoenix hummed with satisfaction as it flew into the stars. Its long wait was over. Its purpose had been found, and its story was only just beginning.